All right, it's all you, Chris.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you all for everyone who is here to for this collection development session for Apple. In front of you is a document I created, and it's called the Collection Life Cycle. And the collection life cycle refers to this circle around on the page, which starts with selection at the top and then goes right to acquisitions, processing, etc. The point of the life cycle is to show that the stuff you have in your library isn't necessarily meant to stay there forever, but it has a shelf life, just as any item in a grocery store. And so the idea is to buy stuff that people want and then make it available and use it, and eventually it's probably going to go away after it's no longer of value. In the center of the life cycle is a column which shows the sort of the basis for which we maintain our collections. On the very bottom is our ethics and values, which are foundational to the creation of our libraries. Above that are policies, which are the guidelines for using our library, for say maintaining our collections. And then there are the procedures, which is the actual work we do for carrying out the collection life cycle. And so this document is arranged approximately in this way. We start with ethics and values, move up to policies, and then we'll do the procedures. And the procedures is part of that life cycle around that life cycle in the circle around this column. So let's move on. Moving on to the next page, page 2. There's our ethics and values, and you can see that for me, the ethics and values for our collections are the intellectual freedom, providing access to the collection, and then financial stewardship, that is, using the money wisely. One of our guidelines also for the collection development is we have state standards. And the state standards, the state standards contain 4 statements related to collection development, and they're listed. You can see them on the left-hand side. There's 25, 26, 27, 28. That tells you what the standards are, and then how to look at the standards to see whether or not your collection is meeting the standards. And there are instructions there. And so one of your homeworks would be to follow the instructions and see whether or not you meet the standards. There's going to be I'm going to be presenting about 6 homeworks here. You need to provide 2 of them by the end of the year. You need to send me 2 of these homeworks by the end of the year. Okay, so moving on. There's policies. There are policies. There's some examples. Here's ALA has a workbook for writing policies on collection development. Here's a list of the elements that could be in the policies. I have bolded the statements which I think all policies should have. And then the homework is you can update your collection development policies. So that's another thing you can do. Follow these directions and send me your updates. Here's the selection procedures. We're now moving into that the actual cycle where we're talking about selection. Here's some criteria that are often used for selecting materials. And then I have given 2 examples here of examples from 2 librarians of how they select materials. We have Galena Gleason at the White Mountain Library in Rock Springs, Wyoming. She uses lots of the print journals, print review sources for her collection development. If we move on to the next page, we have Erin Foley from Wisconsin, and she uses the print journals at New York Times, but she also creates wish lists on Amazon. She uses a lot of the online sources for her collection development. So you can read these over, and eventually you're going to have to create your own procedures for how you collect materials. Every year, this is like my 3rd or 4th year doing this presentation. Every year I do research and add in a new piece of research related to collection development. This is this year's contribution. This is this year's research. And I wanted to know whether or not award winners circulate. It is my impression that we libraries, public libraries, do not buy enough of the really good stuff. And so I wanted to find out whether the really good stuff circulates. For me, the really good stuff would be stuff that has high ratings on Goodreads or is an award winner. That's the stuff that has been acclaimed by others to be the really good stuff. And so I am curious to know whether that stuff actually circulates well in public libraries. So the data I'm going to be using for this research is from the 50 libraries. We have a regional catalog called Pathfinder Central. And so this data comes from the 50 libraries, which are members of that catalog. And so I'm going to be making two claims. I'm going to show you evidence supporting two claims. One is that the award winners circulate better than New York Times bestsellers. And the second claim is that the authors and authors' award-winning titles circulate better than their other books. And so, therefore, showing, hopefully showing to you, demonstrating to you that you should be buying award-winning titles.
Okay.
Yes.
We can listen to that now.
Yes. So the first thing I need to do is I need to set up a criteria for judging whether or not award-winning authors, award-winning titles are really circulate. What is good circulation? So I started with 105 of the New York Times top of the chart bestsellers from 2013 to May 2016. And I rated, the first thing we did is rated them, we get their Goodreads ratings, and so they are listed here. The Goodreads ratings are from start at this end and go down in rank order down to the bottom. So the top one, the top rating is 4.76, and the bottom rating is 3.35, I believe. And so each one of these things. Oh, so then we measured the number of copies. We took it, looked in our catalog in the Pathfinder Central. I got the total number of copies purchased by each of these titles and the total circulation of all of those copies. And we divide the total circulation by the number of copies, and we get circulations per copy. And the Goodreads ratings are ranked along the bottom of this chart, and along the left side are the circulations per copy. Each of these lines is one of the titles, the circulation per copy for a specific title. The orange lines are the titles. I asked my wife to identify the authors which were purchased, the books which were purchased because the author was a really well-known author. People like Stephen King and John Grisham and Janet Ivanovich, for example. The blue lines are the ones for other titles. And this green one is that 50% of the titles on the right side, 50% of the titles on the left side, and that green line is represented down here on this table. And these numbers are the median circulation per copy for the, say this one is for the orange titles on this side. Over here, 6.35 are the median circulation per copy for the orange titles on this side. These are the median circulation for the blue titles. You can see that the best circulating titles is the 7.1. That is, are these titles of the best-selling authors on with the ratings on this side. So 7.1. So the question now is, do award winners circulate better than 7.1 circulations per copy? The answer is yes. If we go to the next page, here's the award winners. New York Times bestseller list on that right side is 7.1. So if we look at 41 reader romances from 2010 to 2015, we can see they circulate 7.4 median circulations per copy. So that's better than the 7.1. If you look at 89 Mystery Award winners, you get 8 circulations per copy. And if we look at Christian Fiction Award winners, we get 7.5 circulations per copy. If we come down here to the authors, look at Rita and the Christian Awards, we can see that, again, the mean circulation for the 41 titles is 7.4. If we look at the other books by the same authors, the circulation per copy is only 5.67. That's for the Rita Award winners. For the Christian Award winners, it's 6.63, which is below the 7.5 for all the award winners, for the Christian Award winners. So that we can see that the award winners circulate better than the New York Times best-selling titles over here at the top of the titles on the New York Times bestseller list. Now, one thing I don't show here is that that CQLS librarians are buying tons, they buy about 33, an average of 33 libraries buy these titles. These titles, the award winners, only have about 5 libraries buying them. Yet these titles circulate as well as, or better than, the New York Times bestseller lists. So I'm encouraging you to buy, look at the award winners and purchase award winners because they circulate very well. Another piece of research has to do, I wanted to find out last year, I wanted to find out whether, what correlates with total circulation. Every year, at the beginning of the year, your library does a statistical report for the state library. And that report asks things like how much you spend, what is your income, how many books do you have, how many videos do you have, audiobooks, etc., how well do they circulate, how much programming you do, etc., etc., etc. I wanted to find out which of those statistics correlated with high circulation. And I looked at 10 things. I looked at 10 things which are listed right here. I'm on page 11. So I looked at 10 things. Total population doesn't correlate. It's flat, doesn't correlate. But you can see if you look at each of these things, you can see at the end of what it's talking about, it has a positive effect, and some of them have negative effects. It's very important you understand what I mean by positive effect. So I'm going to show you, for example, here. Local revenue per capita has a strong positive effect for total circulation per capita. So on this chart, you have, here is a rank order of your local revenue per capita. The low is down here at about $10.29, I think, for the per capita in local revenue. Put it into my sheet so I can see it better. And then the upper end, that's $10.26 at the lower end. And at the upper end, it's $84.11 per capita is the local revenue. Over here is the total circulation per capita, and each of these green bars represents a library, a Kansas library. There's 325 of them. So there should be 325 bars here. You can see that this red line shows that as the local revenue per capita increases, the total circulation per capita also increases. That's what it's meant by a positive effect. As one increases, the other increases. If we go to the next page, we see a negative example of a negative correlation. That is, the percent of the collection in print has a strong negative effect on total circulation. Here is the percentage of the collection in print, and on one side, on the lower end, we have 26.5% of the collection is in print, and the top side we have 100% of the collection is in print. So this means that as the percent of the collection in print increases, the circulation per capita decreases. And you can see, and that's shown by the sloping line downward. You'll notice there are midpoints. The midpoint is 91%, and over here it's $32.27 per capita are the midpoints. So your library should be on the high end of whatever correlation we're talking about. That increases your circulation. So the question now, the next question is, does this mean as you have more and more of these, if you're on the high end of more and more of these, does it have an increase, it doesn't have an effect, a positive effect on your circulation? And the answer is yes. It says green cells, and I had the spreadsheet set up so that if a library's, the statistic for that library was above the midpoint for that statistic, it showed up as a green cells. And so then I grouped the libraries together so that I calculated what was the median circulation per capita, what was the median total circulation per capita for the libraries with 1 green cell. What was the total circulation per capita for the libraries with 2 green cells, and 3 and 4. And as you can see, as more and more of these cells, as more and more of the statistics, you're on the right side, the high side of the midpoint of each of these statistics, your circulation increases. And it actually increases by an average of about 30%. So it goes up 30% to 30%, 30%. Now, of course, you can see this one pumps up the average. So it doesn't increase 30% for all of these, but it will increase about 30% for each time you go up, on average, each time you go up and have more and more circulation, and more your statistic is on the right side of the midpoint. And so these are the correlation, the things that correlate with having high circulation. So this gives you something to work toward to increase your circulation. The percentage of the collection is video or audio, your expenditures for print, the number of service hours, etc. So that's the second research. A third, this is the very first research I did, was create something called Collection Manager. This is available at this URL. This is a spreadsheet, and it's available at this URL. This is what the spreadsheet looks like. I apologize for it being turned sideways. This makes it readable on a printed sheet. The spreadsheet comes up, and you use your ILS system, your automated system, to create 3 reports. And you put in the reports in these first 3 columns, and the rest of the spreadsheet is automatically filled out. The first report, first you need to decide what it is you're going to measure, which collections, and this could be the collections, as it is here. It could be shelf locations, whatever you want. You put down what you circulate. Down here you list what is the grouping for each circulation, for what's circulating, the collection, the shelving locations, whatever. You put it down here. Then you run through the 3 reports. The first report is that you measure the number of titles in each of the collections or in each of the shelving locations. And those are typed here in this first column. The second report is you run the circulation for each of the collections or the shelving locations. Up here it says 2 years. I now recommend just 1 year. So you're doing, for this one, you're doing what you have now. This is the circulation for the past year. And then on the third column, you do the number of titles added for each of the collections during the past year. Anyway, so then once these three columns are filled out, actually it does the totals down here, and on the next three columns there's formulas in the next three columns to automatically calculate the percent of the percent for each of the collections. So for example, if you have 81 and divide it by 14, you will get this percent. If you take 400 and divide it by 24,000, you'll get this percentage. And if you take 47 and divide by this number, 1,700, you get this percentage. And so it does it for all of the collections. Then in columns 7 and 8, it actually, this spreadsheet assumes that all of these percentages should be approximately equal. That is, if this collection is, say, 10%, if this over here, this collection is 10% of your total collection, then it should be about 10% of your circulation. And about 10% of your added titles should be over here, and this is over here as well. The fact that these are not the same and goes up and down indicates something we can use to make a judgment. And that's what these next columns do, column 7 and column 8. Column 7 looks at the first two columns and subtracts actually one from the other to come up with a difference. So the green indicates that the collection is good, is used as well, circulates very well for the number of materials. The ones that are red suggest that you should weed a certain percentage of that collection. So red means to weed this part of the collection. Column 8 compares these two columns and talks about the support for the circulation that your buying does. So on column 8, the green means that you need to buy more titles compared to last year. The red means you need to buy fewer titles compared to last year. And over here, this last column estimates the number of titles you should purchase for each of the collections. Here, right here, this column 9 does what's called a circulation turnover, the turnover rate. And it is separate from, it gives a sort of second opinion. It divides the circulation by the circulation by the collection size. That's what's shown right here. It's column 3 divided by column 1, and that gives you, so these numbers tell you about how the average circulation for each title in that collection. So a 1 means that on average each title in the collection goes out once per year. A number that's higher means that, say, a number of 2 would mean that each title in the collection goes out approximately an average of 2 times a year. And so you can see that over here on audiobooks, audiobooks are going out almost 5 times a year. For the ones that you have in your collection are going out 5 times a year. So now here it says you should weed, but because of this, I would say you should probably buy more, because every title you buy, it's going to be used during the year. And so this would be a good expenditure of your money. So you can use Collection Manager to do analysis, and it's becoming increasingly popular, Collection Manager is, to do some analysis of your collection and give you an idea of what you should be weeding and what you should be buying during the year. We have financial stewardship, which talks about the different ways you can buy stuff. And right down here, starting with the economical purchasing, these are tips from librarians. When I first started doing this, I posted on I think CanLive and on the ARSL listserv, asking people where do they buy their different things, and this is the advice they give you to where to buy stuff in your collection. Here's about processing and cataloging, shelving access to the collection, challenging the addiction to new books. That's what I would like to talk about now. In 1909, William Borden noticed that patrons browse only the new bookshelves. So Borden moved some of the books from his regular shelves onto their own shelves. He did detective stories and historical fiction. They moved them onto their own shelves. Patrons coming in began looking at the new books and then also looking at the genre books. And eventually, patrons began just moving right over to reading the genre shelves, because some group of your patrons just want to read a book in a particular genre. They care less about whether or not it's new. So shelving books by genre can please lots of patrons and serve lots of patrons. Sharon Baker, this is up here. Sharon Baker, in her experiments in the 1980s, in the mid 1980s, showed that genre shelving increased circulation by some very dramatic amounts. And the larger the library, the more the increase in circulation, because shelving books by author, having a huge set of shelves shelved simply by author, is very confusing to many people, especially those people who don't know their authors. So by making smaller collections of just genres, it increases the circulation and helps people select books. So she found that it dramatically increased circulation, and the larger the library, the more dramatically increased circulation. She also found that by putting books on genre shelves, lots of the lesser known authors began circulating. So it circulated a broader range of the entire collection when books were put on genre shelves. So for many years, I have been telling librarians to shelve their books by genres. The problem with shelving books by genre for many librarians is that they don't know which genre to put many books in. If a title is a romance and a mystery, which genre do you shelve it under? If an author writes romances and mysteries, which set of shelving does that author appear in? And some series will have some books as mysteries, some books as romances, some books as thrillers. So a particular series can be in cover different genres. So I'm going to give you a piece of advice here, and I'm coming all the way down. Well, where is it? Right here. Right here. I'm on page 27. So I'm going to make a suggestion to you. You have a section of shelves in your library called probably for the new books. I'm going to recommend to you that beside those new books, you put another section of shelves which are going to be your genre shelves. And each shelf will be a different genre. These books will be, so here you'll put, from your older collection, you'll put a bunch of Westerns and shelve them as Westerns. You'll pull from your older books, from the regular collection, you'll pull a bunch of mysteries and put them right here. And so romances, etc., down in this section. So this will give, right next to the new books, will be shelves for your genre books, and will satisfy the needs of those people who simply want a book in a particular genre, not necessarily a new book.
Chris, there is a question. Is there a website to find the books genre? Is there a good place to go if you have a question?
See. About whether a book goes in a genre or not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know one. I don't know right off the top of my head. There's a bunch of places that give genres. What if I send that to you and you can post that?
Awesome. I'll post it on the Moodle class. We'll probably send it out as an email as well. So thank you.
A lot
Right.
of times you can find it in the MARC record also.
That's true. More and more, thank you for bringing that up. More and more, if you look up the catalog record for it, they're putting in the genres. Also, if you look them on Amazon, you will find genres on there. We also have Novelist. One of the statewide databases is Novelist. Novelist will also identify the genres of particular books.
And Deanne Burns says that you can look inside the book on the back of the title page listed underneath the copyright date where the Dewey Decimal listing is sometimes still put. Sometimes you can find the genre there too. So.
Yes, thank you. Sometimes I cannot necessarily retrieve stuff fast anymore. That's great. Those are all good suggestions. There are also there are a number of websites that focus on specific genres. Stop You're Killing Me is one website that focuses on mystery genres. But I think if you look up the title in Amazon or the Novelist or look in the book, you'll find it more quickly what the genre is. Let's see, where am I? So let's see, I was coming back here. So that's one thing. Let's see. Okay, so here are the places. I'm back, page 18 or so. Here are the places for where you can buy books based on the recommendation of others. Here's processing, here's cataloging, tips about cataloging, shelving access to the collection, challenging the addiction of new books. And that's what I've started with. Challenging the addiction of new books would be the different, by putting the genre shelves next to the new books. You can also, this idea is a brilliant idea, but has not gone on well. I think we should be indexing our nonfiction shelves. And that is, these are like bookmarks where you can put in bookmarks where you put in here's where it's cooking, here is the Dewey Decimal number, and here are the breakouts of the kinds of cuisines that are in your cooking section. And so here's an example. This is an Ellsworth. They weeded their cooking collection and then broke out their cookbooks according to their the cuisine. And so you can see the little orange upright markers there. Those actually identify the cuisine, Asian, vegetarian, or whatever, and there are the books next to it. And so this would give a list. So this makes it easier to look through and use the cookbooks. Over here on the home repair bookmark, we have different kinds of repairs you can do. And if I move that over out of the way, you can see all the repairs that you can do. And then these are the repairs or improvements, and these are the Dewey Decimal numbers for those repairs. So it makes a little index for your nonfiction section and makes it easier to use. And so you can do this for your crafting, for the gardening, for the sections of your nonfiction which are in high demand, but also may be scattered through your libraries or broken out scattered through your nonfiction or broken out within your nonfiction. And so you can make little bookmarks that help you index the collection. Displays. Displays dramatically increase your circulation for the books that are displayed. I recommend that you pull the books from the older books, especially from the lower part of the shelves that are not easily browsed, and display those books to give them a chance of being seen. The displays near the front door always work better than displays in the back of the library. So put your displays up where people are going to be, near the restrooms, on the way into the library, near the circulation desk. Some libraries are using point of sale, having displays right near the circulation desk. And this is what 4 libraries do. Okay, circulation. Now we're moving to circulation. What is my time here? Okay, what is my time? In my opinion, librarians' library checkout periods are too short. I want to present you some evidence for that right now. And I'm going to also show you how your checkout period affects overdues. And I'm going to make a recommendation. So I have taken the libraries in two regional systems, CQLS and the Southeast Kansas Library System. They sent me the following data. They sent me, so there's 79 libraries, and you can see here are the checkout periods, and here are the renewal, the number of allowed renewals. You can see that the majority of the libraries have 2-week checkout period with 1 renewal. The next most common was a 2-week checkout period with 3 renewals. Sorry, with 2 renewals. And then the next one was 3-week checkout period with 1 renewal. So that's the pattern of the checkout periods and the renewals. So how does this provide enough reading time for patrons? I have something, a spreadsheet called Checkout Decider right here. Is the link for it. And the data I'm going to use comes from the Bureau of Labor's 2013 survey measuring the hours of day people spend doing different things outside of work. So they actually do this, I think they do this survey every 3 years. So this is from the 2013 survey. And it creates a checkout decider, looks like this. So here is the circulation, the checkout period of 2 weeks with 1 renewal, the most common. And then it colors, let me explain first, I'm getting ahead of myself. So in that survey of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the survey, people talk about how many hours they spend watching TV, doing sports, and reading. And it's broken out, the sample is broken out by these demographic categories. And this is the number of minutes they say they read for each of the demographic categories down here. Now, lots of websites claim that most adults read about 250 words per minute. So if we multiply this number of minutes per day times 250, we get the number of words per week, this is per week, and then multiply times 7. That gives the number of words per week that people read. There are numerous websites that tell us how many words are in books of different genres, and that's across the top here. So if we divide this number of words by the number of words read per week, we get these numbers in these cells, which tells us how many weeks it takes to read the book. Now, these cells are color-coded so that when I have the checkout period, so that when I put in the number of weeks for the checkout period, those are shown in the dark green. So 2 weeks, any number under 2 or 2 or below is in dark green. Then we have the number of renewals. That's the first renewal, that is 1 renewal. This is automatic. That is in the light green. So that when you have a 2-week checkout period and then 1 week, not 1 week, but 1 additional renewal, which would be a total of 4 weeks, we get these colored cells. And you can see that you can see by the demographics that a 2-week checkout period with 1 renewal provides enough reading time for people who are 65 and older. Enough reading time for people who are not employed. Enough reading time for people who do not have children. Enough reading time for people who have bachelor's degree. But it does not provide enough time for people who are employed, for people who have children, for people who have less than a bachelor's degree. For those people, they need more time. So I'm recommending that I think people should have a 3 and 4 week checkout period. Now, when I recommend that to people, librarians tell me, but they need to get the books back for the next patron because there's a demand on them. Okay, so again, the compromise, and I want to jump down here, back here. So we can use that. So, but the demand for the new books is high. So let's give the new books a 1 week or 2 week checkout period. But the demand for the books in the rest of the catalog isn't as high. So let's give them a 3 to 4 week checkout period. And so we have our section of our new books in a section of new books and our section of older books with the genres broken out. Let's put a sign up that says, these are new books and they have a 2 week checkout period. These are books in genres, these are older books, they have a 4 week checkout period. So now you give the people a reason to look at your older books because they have a longer checkout period. Okay, so now the next thing I looked at, so I wanted to know, so after looking at this, I wanted to know the effect of longer checkout periods on circulation. So here, this comes right here. So we can see this chart right here, this graph shows there's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We can see that it looks like maybe the moving from 2 to 3 actually might decrease circulation. We can't be sure. It may go down a little bit, not much, but maybe a little bit. But the 4 week checkout period definitely increases circulation. So maybe we want to increase checkout period or not. I'm not sure. But you can see what the data is. Here is the renewals. Here's one renewal, they call them allowed renewals, 1 allowed renewals, 2 allowed renewals, and 3 allowed renewals. You can see that as you increase the number of renewals, the circulation definitely does increase. So you should, even if you don't increase the checkout period, the length of the checkout period, you should increase the number of renewals so that people get more time to read. The most interesting thing I discovered was the effect of checkout period on overdues. In this chart, we have this chart shows the percent of the checkouts that are overdue. And down here we have different fines from the different libraries in my sample. The first one, this top one, is for a 2 week checkout period. You can see that the 2 week checkout period has a pretty high overdue rate, but increasing the number of fines drives it down, drives the checkout period, sorry, the percentage of overdues down. The orange is the overdues for the percentage of overdues for a 3 week checkout period. And the purple line is the percentage of overdues for the 4 week checkout period. So we can see that increasing the checkout period pushes down the number of overdues, the percentage of overdues. In fact, it works better than the fines. So I conclude that actually the 2 week checkout period in some sense causes overdues, and that when you give people longer times to read, they will return their books and you'll have fewer overdues. They'll return their books on time and you'll have fewer overdues. So I'm going to move back down here and say, so now we have our new book, a section of new books in the library, and beside it we have our genre shelves in the library. And we have a sign that says these are the new books that have a 2-week checkout period. And I'm going to recommend, since fines for a 2-week checkout period drive down overdues, that we then sign, our sign also says there's a overdue fine of 25 cents a day right here. So the sign will say new books, 2-week checkout period, fine, overdue fine of 25 cents a day. Over here, we have other books in the collection, a 4-week checkout period, no fine, no overdue fines. So now we have 3 reasons in this display, this area. We now give people 4 reasons to look at the older books in our collection. We have they're in genre, which makes it easier for them to select a mystery or romance. We have a longer checkout period, which many of them will like. The parents will like. The people who have jobs will like. The people who maybe don't have a college education will like. Lots of people will like a 4-week checkout period. And over here, we also have no fines. So we have 4 reasons for them in this display why they should look at the older books. We've created a price differential which favors the older books. So that's what I wanted to say about that. So let's move on. Let's see, what is my time? Okay, I have 15 more minutes and then I'm done. Confidentiality, a confidentiality policy. You need to be protecting. You can protect the circulation records and the patron's identification information, and you can do that, and so you should be protecting that. And when police or whatever walk in and ask about it, you should have policies and procedures in place which protect patrons' privacy having to do with with circulation. Maintenance. There's about shelf reading, why inventory, weeding. And let's talk about weeding a little bit. Back in the 70s, back in the old days when libraries first started, back in when Melville Dewey started the American Library Association, and all those other great founders of the American Library, they did not believe in weeding. They did not believe that librarians had the knowledge to know what to take out of the library. The problem it created, though, after several decades of that, is that the libraries were so clogged with stuff that wasn't being read that people stopped using the library, and there's just it created clutter. It created so much clutter that people stopped browsing the collection. And in the 1970s and 80s, people started investigating. Before that, people started moving some books out and putting them in storage so that it freed up and made the collections easier to browse. In the 1970s and 80s, we had a number of researchers showed that weeding books actually increased circulation. I'm going to come back and say I am skeptical. I am not sure that I think we need to learn more about weeding, what kind of weeding actually increases circulation. For we're now at a spot that many of our collections have been weeded to the point that practically the whole collection is new books, less than 5 years old. And so it could be that our weeding now is actually hurting our circulation. Here is some evidence. We go out, the CKLS group goes out and weeds. We'll weed an entire library in a day, and we take out a whole bunch of stuff. Here is the evidence to show that maybe our weeding is actually hurting the circulation. This little box summarizes the data from the big table above it, in that of the 19 weedings here, or the 7 weedings here, and we also weeded, here's fiction, nonfiction, and kids. So of the 19 collections or so we've weeded, about 9 of them had a positive increase on the circulation. 10 of them had a negative increase on the circulation. So I think you need to be paying attention and measuring whether or not your circulation is going up or down based on your weeding. And I think we should be paying more attention to that and finding out in what circumstances does weeding increase circulation, and in what circumstances does weeding decrease circulation. So I think you ought to be paying attention to that. Here are some standards. Again, the standards for calculating how much you should weed. Handling challenged materials. Okay. People will walk into your library and say that they don't like a particular book or title and think it should be removed from the library. You should have policies and procedures to protect your collection and how to handle it. And so ALA has lots of good stuff about how to do it. Here's stuff about this, the motives, tactics used by censors, a checklist for handling the community, et cetera, et cetera. You should have a request form. There's and so you can request forms, and there's all kinds of links talking about how to deal with challenges to your collection. And one of the homeworks is how to handle challenged materials. So you would write your procedures and have the forms available for handling challenged materials. Okay. So that is it. I have covered everything I want. I guess I have five opportunities for homework. You need to do 2 of them, and you would email them to me. By let's say by December 15th. Email them to me. Are there any questions? Thank you all for listening. Are there any questions?
I don't see anything. Yes. Oh,
I have a question.
mhm.
The homework. Sorry, my brain froze. I just lost it. Never mind. It'll come back to me.
Okay, you can email me. Let me give you my email address.
Thank you.
It's crippel. That's CRIPPEL
EL. Okay.
at ckls.org.
ckls.org.
I just posted it on
Okay.
the chat. That's my email address.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. The thing that now, is there a colon there?
No.
No.
Or semicolon? Okay. Good. Anyway,
Is there a colon there?
yeah,
it
there
looks like
was.
I
There
typed
was
a colon.
a
Yes, you're
semicolon
right.
there.
I'm sorry about that.
The thing I was going to ask you, when I go to the Moodle site, can I print all of this printout and the homework pages?
Yes.
Yes.
The Moodle site, this is up on the Moodle site right now.
Okay.
It is also in the chat window right now. I've
Okay.
posted
Well,
it.
as far as printing it directly off of what I'm looking at off my screen, it won't allow me to do that.
No, you'll have to download the document and print it.
Okay,
It's a
good
Word
enough.
document.
Right. If you're in the Dropbox, right, when it shows up on the Dropbox, you don't print it. Don't try to print it from the Dropbox. You actually download it onto your computer. That's
Okay.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
There any other questions? Oh, okay. Looks like somebody's not enrolled in the class on the Moodle site. I'll take care of that one. Anything else for Chris?
Well, they should check everything in, but it's one of those things where something that slips, so they see where it is, see what's going on with it before they check it in. I don't know.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you all. We'll be back here in December, first Wednesday of the month.
Because that little star, they had to put that little asterisk.
Is it ethic? No, it's not. I don't remember what the topic is. I think it might be ethics. That's either December or February. I forget.
I had to put it in a TikTok.
Anyway, whichever topic it is, we'll be back here in this Zoom room in a month.